Ever stop and, really think about what's real around you?
Mm.
We sort of trust our senses, right?
Mm.
What we see, hear,
Mm.
touch. But what if that's well misplaced?
That's a huge question, and it ties right into what we're looking at today.
Exactly. We're doing a deep dive, thanks to a piece one of you shared. Predrag Millidrag's Post-humanism of the Matrix Trilogy.
Yeah, it's a fantastic source.
Yeah.
Millidrag really digs into the philosophy behind the action in the Matrix films. It's not just cool sci-fi.
Right. He shows how it's wrestling with these massive questions philosophers have been asking for, well, ages.
Centuries, yeah.
So, for you listening, if you want to get the core ideas fast, that's our mission today. We're unpacking the big philosophical threads Millidrag points
We're
out.
talking Plato, Descartes, Hegel, some heavy hitters.
Definitely. But we'll break down how their ideas about reality, doubt, freedom, consciousness,
Hmm.
how it all plays out with Neo and the whole Matrix world.
Sounds good. Where should we start? Plato seems like the natural place, especially for the first movie.
Perfect. Let's dive in with Plato. Millidrag argues the first Matrix film is just steeped in his philosophy.
It really is. I mean, think about the basic setup. You've got two worlds. There's the Matrix itself, the virtual reality,
The simulation.
and then there's the grim reality outside. That's pure Plato, his idea of two distinct realms.
Yeah, he had the world of appearances, what we see and touch,
Our everyday experience.
and then the world of forms, the sort of perfect, true, unchanging reality behind it all.
Exactly. And Plato believed our world, the one we perceive, is just like a shadow of that true reality. It depends on it entirely.
So Millidrag is saying the Matrix is that world of appearances.
Precisely. It's what almost everyone thinks is real. But Morpheus and the crew, they know it's constructed, an illusion built by the machines, dependent on the underlying machine reality.
Okay, that really changes how you see the red pill, blue pill scene, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Choosing the red pill isn't just about seeing reality. It's like waking up to Plato's world of forms, realizing everything you knew was, well, fake.
It's a profound shift in perception. And remember Morpheus's line about being born into a prison?
A prison for your mind.
Yeah. That resonates so strongly with Plato's cave allegory, mistaking shadows for the real thing because it's all you've ever seen.
It's a direct parallel. Inside the Matrix, what seems real, taste, touch, sight, Millidrag stresses it's all just sensory data, an illusion.
A simulation without any real basis in the actual physical world the characters inhabit outside of it?
Okay, so Plato gives us this foundation, illusion versus a deeper reality. Where does Descartes come into the picture then?
Ah, Descartes. This is where it gets maybe even more internal. Millidrag points to Descartes' focus on radical doubt.
The whole I think, therefore I am guy.
That's him. But before he got there, he questioned everything. Could he trust his senses? He even imagined this, powerful evil genius maybe feeding him false information.
Wow. And the machines in the Matrix, they're basically that evil genius, aren't they?
Kind of, yeah. They've created this massive convincing deception. So, just like Descartes questioned his senses, the red pills have to question every single experience they ever had.
It forces that fundamental doubt.
Exactly. Which leads us back to cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am.
Right. Even if I'm being deceived, the fact that I'm doubting proves that I, as a thinking thing, must exist.
That's Descartes' anchor point. But Millidrag argues the Matrix adds a twist, makes it even trickier.
How so?
Well, in the Matrix, couldn't even your thoughts, your sense of I, potentially be part of the simulation, part of the manipulation?
Ooh, okay, yeah.
So while the Awoken know they exist somehow, their experience within the Matrix, even their own bodies in the Matrix, could still be part of the deception. It's a deeper level of uncertainty.
That is deeply unsettling. If you can't trust senses, maybe not even thoughts. What about the link between mind and body? That's another big Descartes thing, right? Mind-body dualism.
It is. Big time. Descartes saw the mind consciousness, reason, free will as fundamentally separate from the body, the physical stuff governed by, physics.
Like software and hardware?
Sort of, yeah. And Millidrag connects this directly to those amazing training scenes in the first film.
Right. When Neo's in the sparring program,
Yeah.
jumping huge distances, dodging bullets, his mind is working within the Matrix's rules, totally separate from his actual body's limits back in the pod.
Exactly. His mind is unbound. And Morpheus says, your body cannot live without the mind, highlighting consciousness. But then there's that other key phrase, free your mind.
And if you free your mind, you can bend the rules of the Matrix, do impossible things.
Yes. And here's the paradox Millidrag points out. that freedom within the simulation, the freedom of the mind over the simulated body, is shown initially as way more complete, more powerful than freedom in the actual physical world.
That's a strange twist. You're freer inside the prison, in a way.
In a very specific mental way, yes, at least at first. It sets up a really interesting tension.
Okay, so we've got Plato's shadows, Descartes' doubt, and the mind-body split. Now, Mildrag brings in Hegel, especially for the later films. How does Hegel change things?
Right. If Plato and Descartes are foundational for the first movie, Hegel's ideas, according to Mildrag, become much more central as the trilogy progresses, especially his thoughts on freedom and consciousness.
How so? What was Hegel's view?
Well, Hegel thought true freedom wasn't just about, pure thought or escaping physical limits. It needed full engagement with life, with reality, not some abstract, disconnected freedom.
Okay, I can see that. Neo's journey in sequels isn't just about escaping anymore.
Exactly. He's trying to find a way to live meaningfully, to exercise freedom within the complex situation he's in, dealing with both worlds.
He's looking for a more embodied freedom.
That's a great way to put it. And Mildrag uses Hegel's concept of the unhappy consciousness.
Unhappy consciousness. What's that?
It describes this sort of internal split and alienation between mind and body, or self and the world. That feeling of being divided, disconnected. Mildrag suggests the whole dynamic between Neo and Agent Smith is like a manifestation of this struggle. Smith wants to break free from his programming, to become more real, more embodied, maybe. And Neo is wrestling with his own nature. It's a clash, trying to overcome that duality.
Wow, interpreting Smith through Hegel. That adds a whole other layer to their fights.
It really does. It's not just good versus evil programming.
Okay, let's switch gears to the architect, the designer of the Matrix. Very different vibe. What philosophy does he represent?
The architect. That scene where he explains everything to Neo, Mildrag focuses on his core belief. Humanity's biggest flaw, from his perspective, is choice.
Choice. Why is that a flaw?
Because it's unpredictable. For being obsessed with logic, mathematics, and system stability, free will introduces chaos. It's an anomaly.
And Neo, the One, is the ultimate anomaly generated by that choice.
Exactly. The architect sees him as this recurring systemic error that needs to be managed, integrated back into the system somehow to maintain balance, albeit a flawed balance.
He's all logic, algorithms, predictions.
Pure rationality. But as Mildrag points out, that's his limitation. He fundamentally doesn't get human emotion, especially love.
Right, his conversation about the Oracle and Trinity, he just doesn't compute love.
He can't factor it into his equations, and that's crucial.
Which leads perfectly to the contrast between him and the Oracle. Logic versus intuition, emotion.
Precisely. Mildrag paints them as these two opposing poles. The architect is reason, control, seeing choice as a bug. The Oracle understands intuition, connection, emotion, particularly love's power.
And Neo's choice-saving Trinity, instead of reloading the Matrix like his predecessor supposedly did.
That choice, driven by love, completely defies the architect's logic. It breaks the cycle.
But it's shown as the right choice somehow, like it leads to progress.
Yes. Mildrag argues this seemingly irrational act represents a move towards a higher form of morality. Not just logic and system preservation, but one based on connection, empathy, maybe even sacrifice.
A morality the machines, or at least the architect, couldn't grasp initially.
Exactly. And it's this act, this choice that Mildrag suggests opens the door for a different future, maybe one involving some kind of interdependence between humans and machines at the end. It's not just war anymore.
Okay, this feels like it connects directly to the posthumanism in the title of Mildrag's work. What does that mean here?
Well, generally, posthumanism challenges the idea that humans are the absolute center of everything, especially with technology blurring lines.
Right, between human and machine, organic and artificial.
Exactly. Mildrag suggests the trilogy explores this territory. Where does human intelligence end and machine intelligence begin? Can machines achieve consciousness? Can they desire freedom?
We see programs expressing desires, fears, like the Oracle, Smith, even minor characters.
Right. It's not just humans seeking freedom from machines. It's about new forms of consciousness emerging, new kinds of relationships forming in this technologically saturated world. The lines get really blurry.
So the films, through all this philosophy Mildrag unpacks, are really pushing us to reconsider what human even means anymore.
Absolutely. To rethink reality, consciousness, freedom, especially as our own world gets more technologically integrated.
Wow. Okay, we have definitely covered a lot of philosophical ground there,
Yeah.
from Plato's cave
Through.
through Descartes' doubting to Hegel's ideas on consciousness and freedom, all seen through Mildrag's analysis of the Matrix.
It really shows these films are more than just cool action flicks, right? They're packed with these deep, enduring questions.
Absolutely. They use sci-fi to make us think about things philosophers have debated for, well, forever. Reality, freedom, what it means to be aware.
And these questions are still incredibly relevant today, maybe more than ever.
So the final thought for you listening. After hearing about Plato's illusions, Descartes' doubts, Hegel's take on freedom, what do you think makes reality real? What does genuine freedom mean in your life right now?
Yeah, how do these big ideas apply when you log off or walk away from this deep dive? What are the matrix-like systems or assumptions in our own lives?
Something to chew on. A huge thank you for sharing the source material that sparked this. And thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
We hope it gave you a new way to look at the films and maybe even the world.
Definitely. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.